Jennifer Ertman and Elizabeth Pena were going home late one night because it was curfew time when they were assaulted. The horrible, horrible way they died is something that you can't really forget.
Sir, you can't go down.
I can't! My God, goddammit! No! Wait for that! No, you!
I think it impacted me and a lot of us because we realized you can just be living your life and you run into that. And it's easy for you to think you can be careful yourself, but wait till you have kids and you have to let them go out on their own. You can't ever anticipate all the evil that there is out there, and that's what's so scary. I don't know how you ever forget all the details of what happened to each of those girls. The parents, what they went through with 5 trials and burying their babies.
That's your son, buddy. No,
What's important in this case is the level of pain that Jennifer and Elizabeth's parents went through. And they didn't just bury their babies and deal with that grief. They helped fix the criminal justice system. And I think people need to know that.
Can't seem to find you. I'm craving a place to go.
I know Jennifer from middle school, and I met Elizabeth in high school our freshman year. Jennifer was one of my best friends.
It still hurts very, very much. My daughter, Elizabeth, she was a wonderful, wonderful person. She was always very, very happy, always smiling. She was definitely a mama's girl.
Jennifer was a little bit younger than I was, so she was a little bit more on the shy side, but she was starting to come out of her shell. They were both great friends, beautiful girls just starting to find themselves. The summer of 1993, we had just ended our freshman year, and we were enjoying our summer. That Thursday night, June 24th, they had gotten together at a mutual friend's apartment complex just to hang out.
Jenny was 14, Elizabeth 16, and typical teenage girls just, having fun. They went to a party, but they also had a curfew. And when it became closer to the curfew hours, they kind of looked at their watch and went, oh, we better go.
I didn't go that night, but I got a call the next morning from Jennifer's parents asking if I had heard from her because she hadn't made it home, but I had not. Initially, her parents were a little worried because it just wasn't like her to not call and let them know where she was. I don't think I really thought anything of it, just maybe they fell asleep at the apartment. We would hear from her eventually. But that evening, when we hadn't heard from either one of the girls, it started to get a little scary, and the parents first called the police that Friday.
1993. HPD handled around 600 murders a year, and Harris County handled around 600 murders a year. It's the same DA's office, so we had both of their murders combined, plus all the other law enforcement agencies that we had to deal with. So when the story first came out, probably we all thought, oh, they're just off doing something silly, and maybe they'll still come home.
All you could do back then was simply report it to the police, and a lot of times they would just hope that the missing persons would show up.
We just started passing out flyers at local convenience stores and businesses, even door to door in the neighborhood, and no one had seen them. The anxiety was definitely building.
The perception was in the beginning that they were runaways.
The Ertmans and Peñas, they knew that they weren't, quote, runaways. This was something wrong.
How are y'all?
How you been, Kelly?
I'm good. So he didn't tell you I was coming out here today. Well, I called him to see if I could come out here and talk to y'all, because...
well, she's not going to do the interview.
That's okay.
You wanted to come in?
Yeah. She was a girly girl, though.
She was a girly
liked
girl. You're right.
stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
She loved that. Her makeup and her get dressed up and go out with her friends and just be a girl.
And she had gotten to be good friends with Jennifer, right?
They was friends for 2 or 3 years before this happened. The girls, they just started living. I mean, they just started living.
People always say, what happened that night that caused it to go so horribly wrong? Nothing, right? They were just coming home.
They were just coming home from a birthday party. I wish they would have called us to pick them up. They just decided to walk.
Well, it wasn't that far. It should have been fine, you know?
It wasn't that far from my house to that apartment, but that was the worst decision they ever made in their life.
The girls were missing. 4 days go by, and all of a sudden, there's a tip. We don't know the name, but the tipster said, you know, you're looking for 2 girls. I know where they are. PC Chester Park.
From the apartments to the park to Elizabeth's house, that was all walking distance.
I kind of lived in the area. That's why I was really surprised when I got the call that something had happened there. When I got there around noontime, the crime unit was already there with a helicopter. I started walking across the railroad tracks. And then I went into the woods. And that first thing I noticed were some feet and some legs. There are 2 bodies that were partially nude, but I really couldn't tell till I got close that they were females. That's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that.
It's always hot in Houston in the summer, and the bodies were so badly decomposed, it wasn't easy to just identify them from viewing them.
It looked like there were small little animals all over her like maggots. It was just awful. I still think about it, and I can still see the pictures in my head. And then I noticed clothes scattered all over the place. And then I saw a belt that was red, that kind of half of it wasn't there. It was just so horrific. I can remember like it happened the other day.
The horror had been discovered, and the parents had found out. There's a crowd around, and Randy Ertman just broke through that crowd.
Sir, you can't go
I
down.
can't, it's my daughter, goddammit! No, wait for that, tell you!
You watch that video of Randy running down that hill screaming, and the cops holding him back because they knew he didn't need to see what was inside those trees. And then you hear him say, "Does she have blonde hair?"
Blonde hair? Is she blonde hair?
You can just hear the raw pain in his voice that day. It breaks your heart.
The bodies were taken to the medical examiner's office to see what injuries specifically they had, what the cause of death was. The police department then began to try to figure out who was responsible for this.
That anonymous informant called Crime Stoppers first. And when you call Crime Stoppers, that's anonymous and can't be traced. That's to encourage people to call with information for the reward money. But when the Houston Police Department was looking for the bodies, initially they couldn't find them because they were looking in the wrong area. And then that anonymous informant called back to 911 to tell them you're looking in the wrong spot and where exactly to find the bodies in a clearer way. When you call 911, everybody knows that's not anonymous. You can be traced.
You can't imagine sitting and listening to these people bragging and what they did to a 14 and 16-year-old girl.
I was pretty shocked that there were that many people involved and nobody stepped up and tried to stop it.
Mr. Ertman was right here with the police, right here. And he was trying to go in there to see if that was his daughter.
Y'all had to hold him back?
Yeah, he was yelling at the officers, so I came in behind him, tapped him on the shoulder, and he turned around with the fist, and I went, whoa, whoa. So I calmed him down. He kept telling me he wanted to see if that was his daughter. I said, you can't go in there.
He didn't want to see that anyway.
And I told him, I said, if you want to help, go get some dental records.
Okay.
And to me, that should have told him something.
Yeah.
You know. His entrance to the spot. 30 years later, everything's grown, but I could tell this was the entrance.
Remember, you still picture in your head how their bodies were?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I still remember the bodies.
Now, I've seen a lot of bad pictures. Those were the worst I've ever seen. I don't know how you lived through that as a parent.
Insects go for skin that's been damaged. The skin and the tissues around the neck and around their heads, they were just so damaged. And so formal identification was made through dental records.
Murder was happening almost twice a day here, but this shocked everybody.
People were afraid. Most of my classmates were scared to go out.
When working a murder case, the investigators start with their biggest leads first. And with this case, the police started with that anonymous informant, the person who reached out to give the identification of where the bodies were, and they believe who actually called in more than one time.
I was able to get the telephone number traced, and that led us to a house in the Heights. The informant was Joe Cantu and Joe's wife, Christina. Joe begins to tell me what he knew, which involved his brother Peter. On the night of the murder, they were at home watching TV when Peter and a whole group of guys came rolling into Joe and Christina's house. Peter started telling them what happened.
These boys went to their home right after committing the murders, and they were bragging.
We raped them, we strangled them. Look what I got this watch.
It was almost like the jewelry was spoils of war, and they didn't seem to have any qualms about distributing the ill-gotten gains. They actually talked about, quote, having a good time, raping and then killing these girls.
Joe's wife just horrified, mortified. Now, you can't imagine sitting and listening to these people bragging and what they did to a 14 and 16-year-old girl.
Joe describes the group as a gang. Peter is the leader of the gang.
It was a local gang called the Black and White Gang. So you had Peter Cantu, Jose Medellin, his younger brother, Venancio Medellin, Ephraim Perez, Derek Sean O'Brien. And they were initiating a new member, Raul Villarreal. They were beating the crap out of him, name-calling, you name it, to see if he was, quote, honorable to be part of this gang. And then all of a sudden, at the same time, you had two young girls that are walking through. Joe Cantu told the Houston police officers when the gang initiation was taking place, there was 8 people present, including the Sandoval brothers. The Sandoval brothers didn't like what they were seeing, and they said, I'm out of here. They took off, but they didn't call 911 or the police department.
I was pretty shocked that there were that many people involved and nobody stepped up and tried to stop it. It blew my mind.
For Joe and Christina to report this, that took guts.
Both Christina and Joe were nervous about any kind of retaliation, but they knew what had happened was wrong. And I think they were unable to live with themselves if they had not said something.
We went to the homes of these 6 suspects simultaneously, so one wouldn't call another one to say the police arrested us, so you need to leave. So my partner and I then went up to the Peter Cantu home. And the father, he opens the door. We asked him, "Where's Peter?" And he pointed to his bedroom. We opened the door and he was in the bed asleep. We kind of nudged him a little bit, said, "Hey, it's time to get up, you're under arrest." And then that's when I started noticing around the room, some of the objects that were stolen from the girls.
Derek Sean O'Brien's apartment, coincidentally, is within walking distance to where the bodies were found. He tried to run out the back door and then was arrested.
Derek O'Brien, in his room was a partial belt that was red that matched the belt I found in the woods.
We ended up bringing everybody down to the homicide division where the interviews started taking place.
Having the physical evidence that connects Derek Sean O'Brien and Peter Cantu to the girls' murders is wonderful. But you're going to want to make sure you have evidence that connects to everyone involved in the crime so you can get them all.
These are the suspects. 18-year-old Jose Ernesto Medellin in the blue shirt, and the teen handcuffed with him is 17-year-old Efren Perez. Another suspect, 18-year-old Peter Cantu, tried to kick a reporter as he was escorted by detectives.
I don't think that any of the defendants ever showed any kind of special level of remorse or even regret. But I think that we all agree that Peter Cantu was on a different level as far as mean. He was the leader of the gang.
And they arrested all 6 of them, which I thought was a blessing, because I thought, God forbid, that they wouldn't find the individuals that did this to my daughter. I would have never got over this if they had not found all 6 of them son of a bitches. Excuse my language.
I was 16 at the time, and most of the guys were 17, 18, and one 14-year-old. They could have been people that we knew in high school.
They've been accused but not formally charged with capital murder and are being held on $100,000 bond each. Another suspect is only 14 years old and was taken separately from HPD headquarters to juvenile authorities.
All the suspects were questioned at the same time. They were all separated, but all statements were kind of different from each other.
These guys are all pointing fingers at each other when they're asking who grabbed him. One saying this one did it, one saying the other one did it, and one saying, well, I grabbed her, but I just grabbed her hand.
Trying to get information about any kind of crime, much less a capital murder, from a gang member and asking them to talk on another gang member is pretty much impossible. And I would say it's just about the very hardest job any prosecutor ever has to deal with, because they're not going to talk. They know if they talk, that labels them for the rest of their life. The Houston Police Department arrested 6 defendants for the murders of Jennifer Ertman and Elizabeth Pena. Because none of the individual 6 defendants was coming all the way clean with what he did or with what anybody else did initially, the police department had to go at each of them strategically from different points of view, trying to figure out the details of what they all did as best they could.
It was a matter of bouncing to these different rooms and talking to the detectives that had talked to them. As you start getting nuggets of information and using those pieces of information to elicit more of the truth, they start opening up a little bit.
Everything I said in the written statement is true. The only thing that I did included that I participated in it also.
Okay, can you explain how you participated?
I raped both females.
Okay.
Along with everybody else that was there with me.
Okay.
I was also a participant in the act of strangling one of the females.
No defendant ever tells everything about what they do. They always minimize. But then as HPD homicide went from room to room and told each other what the other ones admitted on their co-defendants, they were able to get more and more details out of each of them individually.
According to the statements that these defendants gave, Elizabeth Pena was grabbed first, and Jennifer ran and could have gotten away but went back to help her friend. And then she was grabbed as well. And then they were taken down the hill where it was a wooded area, and that's where the assaults occurred.
You say you were a participant in it. What did you do exactly?
I was helping Sean strangle the white female.
Okay, how did you help him?
By holding her down.
Okay, what was he using to strangle her?
First they belt, then the belt broke, then the handkerchief.
There was an ambivalent tone in a lot of what they were saying. It's kind of chilling when you listen to it.
Then Joe came and he started choking him.
With what?
With a shoelace.
Where'd he get the shoelace from?
I don't know.
Okay.
Joe told me, here, you get this side. So I grabbed that side.
You grabbed
the other side of the shoes.
Was he trying to kill him?
Yeah.
Why?
He didn't like no witnesses.
It was like a raping frenzy.
And I'll just leave it to your imagination what happened to these two teenagers.
They had to endure a lot of pain. It was very hard to hear, like how sick.
It's devastating to me. Why would anybody that's not evil do something like that to a small child? You have to be evil.
I don't know. I never understood how somebody standing there didn't say stop.
Although these defendants point the fingers at each other. In Texas, we have what's called the law of parties. If you can prove that people acted together to commit a certain offense, they're jointly and severably liable for that offense.
As they talk about it, you wouldn't call it graphic because they tell it so matter of fact. They kind of like that they're getting to talk about it. I just remember hearing it going, my God, a jury's going to hate you.
The girls were buried 1 week after their bodies were discovered. Their funerals were held back to back, and they're buried in the same cemetery.
I attended a funeral service for Jenny, and it was an overflowing crowd. I mean, it was extending almost out to the street.
I helped Jennifer's parents pick out some songs to play, at the funeral. I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, and Boys to Men, The End of the Road.
I don't know how you ever forget all the details of what happened to each of those girls. If you've ever been the victim of a murder, like the Penas and the Ertmans, the parents, what they went through, losing their babies and burying their babies, think of a victim you've ever had in your whole career who's gone through more than them.
I don't have any.
There's not one. All 6 of these defendants were charged with capital murder. Clearly, there were different ways you could have charged them. You could have charged them as a double murder, capital murder, or as a sexual assault murder, capital murder, or as a robbery murder, capital murder. So any of those combinations of ways to file capital murder could have applied to all of these defendants. Ultimately, the elected DA made the final decision to seek the death penalty. Johnny Sutton was the first chair in Raul Villarreal's case because he was the chief of the court. He asked me to sit on the case with him because I had death penalty experience.
My case was Efren Perez. When you have this many defendants, and there were 5 who were determined to be adults and 1 who was under 17 who would be processed as a juvenile. And so they're assigned to different courts. Everybody was with a different set of prosecutors that would handle that case.
You had 5 different judges in charge of their individual defendants. We never had to deal with that before. The same witnesses over and over again times 5. The same cops, the same family, the same medical examiner did the autopsy. This was a first for everybody in all kinds of ways. Benny Medellin went first because he's a juvenile. He didn't have a trial, just had a hearing. He pled guilty to aggravated sexual assault, and he got the maximum.
They took the life of our daughters today. Okay, they ought to take the life of this man too. Or he's not even a man. He's a sick individual.
Of course, they're disappointed. How could they not be? They want their daughter back. He got life 40, a juvenile sentence, but he only got it one time. Remember, we have 2 victims, and we have all different kinds of ways we could have filed capital murder. So they didn't file more than one, and they didn't try to stack them and make them consecutive sentences. If he will agree to testify truthfully and completely.
I am very sorry for what happened. I lay awake every night and wish I had physically fought the other guys, even my brother, to protect them.
It was originally planned that all 5 defendants were going to be tried at or around the same time to make it as easy as possible on the victims' families. But every judge is his own king. They decide when they want to go to trial, how fast they want to go to trial. And I remember Judge Harmon had Peter Cantu, and he was going first. Judge Harmon would have gone first whether or not Peter Cantu was the leader of the gang. He would have tried it the next day if he could have. He was ready to go to trial always, and if you were in his courtroom, you were going to work your butt off.
It was almost a circus-like atmosphere. And you had family, you had friends. I've never seen so many people in one courtroom.
Peter Cantu is the leader of the gang. I think he was the reason everything happened. It was hard to be in the same room with him.
When the gang initiation was taking place, there was 8 people present, including the Sandoval brothers. And when Jenny and Elizabeth walked upon the gang initiation, the Sandoval brothers, they bolted. Did they do anything? Did they call police? No. But at the very least, they did testify that they observed Cantu, Medellin, and O'Brien grab Elizabeth, and then when Jenny went over to help, grab her as well.
You don't get to pick and choose your witnesses. You're not going to have nuns to talk about it. It's a gang initiation. So on the scale of do you believe the Sandoval brothers, they walked away because they knew this was horrible and they didn't do it. So I think that helped their credibility.
And Joe Cantu also testified. Well, it was a big deal that Joe was willing to testify against his own brother and against the other gang members. The case might not have been solved without Joe.
The families, they got out when the medical examiner testified.
The details that the medical examiner needed to get into to fully describe what those girls suffered was going to be horrible to listen to. But the jury had to fully appreciate all that if they were going to be asked to decide ultimately, does Peter Cantu deserve life or does he deserve death?
I'd never seen photos that disturbing. I remember seeing them in my sleep, you know.
The defense, they want to do right by their client and give him the kind of defense that he deserves. That being said, the defense didn't have a whole lot to work with, I'm afraid.
The jury of 12 people unanimously found Peter Cantu guilty of capital murder.
The guilty verdict, we knew was coming. The real issue was he going to get the ultimate sentence in the state of Texas, and that's the death penalty.
At the end of the punishment phase was again unanimous that he should receive the death penalty.
Please, no.
We're in the hallway waiting, and Judge Harmon came up to me, and I'll never forget it. He goes, hey, what do you think if I allow Mr. Herman to say a few words? I think, Judge, he would love it.
Before this trial, the Victims' Bill of Rights had been expanded to allow victims' families to give an impact statement. not before the jury, and it had nothing to do with what the sentence would be, but just to let them have the opportunity to speak out if they wanted to.
We live for the day that you die. Hope you rot in hell.
It takes a little bit off your chest to be able to tell the scumbags what they've done to you.
These guys can get executed the way they did. Just left there on the ground, died.
When Randy Ertman and Mr. Pena stood up, that changed the course of history for victims' rights in Harris County. Everybody now knew you could do this.
Derek Sean O'Brien's trial was about to start when Joe Cantu called in again. He had information that Peter Cantu, Jose Medellin, and O'Brien had committed another murder. A few days before Derek Sean O'Brien was set to go to trial, Joe Cantu came forward again, this time with information linking Derek Sean O'Brien to the unsolved rape and murder of a woman in a park named Patricia Lopez. The police tell O'Brien's lawyer that Derek Sean O'Brien needs to provide his DNA for that investigation.
Through the investigation, we learned that 6 months earlier, Jose Medellin, Peter Cantu, and Derek Sean O'Brien brutally raped, brutally murdered, disemboweled, and left in a public park.
How could they do this to Jennifer and Elizabeth unless they've had some experience taking a life before?
In the Patricia Lopez case, we did get some DNA that matched back to Jose Medellin, but it was a fingerprint on a beer can at the scene that matched Derek Sean O'Brien.
When it becomes apparent that Derek Sean O'Brien took part in the murder of Patricia Lopez, that evidence is ultimately used in the punishment phase of Derek Sean O'Brien's trial for what he did to Jennifer and Elizabeth.
Derek Sean O'Brien was convicted pretty quickly, and then they also assessed the death penalty.
There are still 3 defendants left whose trials are set. The decision was made that we were going to try all 3 of those defendants at the same time, simultaneously, mostly just to try and take away some of the pain and anguish that Jennifer and Elizabeth's parents were having to go through, to get it over with. No one had ever tried to do that in a courthouse anywhere in this country. Johnny Sutton and I were in charge of handling defendant Raul Villarreal. He was 17 years old. He was the first offender. He was the one being initiated into the gang that night. And based on the evidence that we had for punishment, our case was the most difficult one to try. On September 13, 1994, the trial against Raul Villarreal began. Johnny Sutton started our trial with his opening statement where he laid out how the girls came up on the gang that night and told the part of the story that a lot of people didn't know, where Jennifer Ertman had the chance to escape. She could have run away, but she went back to help Elizabeth because Elizabeth was crying out to her for help. We opened our case by calling Sandra Ertman to the stand. That's Jennifer's mom. And she started out her testimony by talking about what Jennifer was wearing that last night she was alive. Her striped shirt, her baggy jeans, and her purple Converse tennis shoes, all clothes that her daddy had given her for graduation, which the jury got to see pictures of in the crime scene photos. Sandra also talked about the jewelry that Jennifer owned and had on that night, and that all was important and came into play because that jewelry was divided up like the spoils among the defendants and later recovered at some of their houses and apartments.
The same witnesses testify at each trial. At Joe Cantu testified. You had the officers, you had the Sandoval brothers. Venancio Medellin testified against everyone except for his brother.
I think I was in court for 3 days straight to testify in all 3 cases.
Well, in my case, I had a very detailed statement from Efren Perez about what he did and what he saw other people do. My daughter was the same age as these girls, and it was very emotional for me personally, and to read the police investigation. We didn't have cameras in the courtroom in this trial for Ephraim Perez. We had a sketch artist, Robbie Pleasant. I'm questioning the medical examiner. It's Judge Ruben Guerrero with the jury, and the defendant is in there, and his attorneys, and Don Smith, who's my second chair. After the trial was over, one of the jurors approached me and said that I must have had ice water in my veins because when I was doing the medical examiner, that I didn't show any emotion, but it was just the opposite.
There was a couple of the cases where some of the defense attorneys tried to mitigate their client's actual role in this. Raul Villarreal probably the most, because Villarreal was the one that was getting initiated at the time.
What I said to the jury was, don't get caught up in comparing Raul Villarreal to Peter Cantu, because Raul Villarreal could have walked away. He could have stopped. He could have not participated. And you heard his statement, you heard his confession. Did he sound like he was sorry for what he did? So don't get caught up in trying to compare them to each other. That's not really the point.
With the 3 trials going on at the same time, my case, there was a guilty verdict. And the other 2 cases, they were both found guilty, and the punishment phase begins.
Raul Villarreal was only 17, and he didn't have a prior criminal history. We knew that going in, that was going to be the hard part of this case. Remember the opposite of that. He's just 17, and look what he's capable of doing already. He wanted to be a part of that gang. He wanted to be initiated that night. He chose to rape these 2 little girls that are screaming and crying, stop, 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 and then stomp them with his boots and choke them out. And you think that just because he's 17, we're supposed to forget about that and give him a life sentence? What? Johnny and I gave our final arguments, and we were waiting for a verdict just like the other 2 courtrooms were. And none of us were sure what the verdicts were going to be. And the longer you wait, the more worried you get.
Although they were young, most people were in support of what the prosecution was going after, and that was death for all 5 of these young men. There is an argument on both sides, but in that case, the strength of any argument against it didn't get any traction.
My case, there was a guilty verdict and a death penalty assessed, and the other 2 cases, they were both found guilty, and the verdicts were also the death penalty.
Out of all 5 of the adult defendants, every single one of them was sentenced to death. I think it was the only time something like that had happened in the whole country.
All hell broke loose.
That's your son, buddy. Go no fight.
From what I overheard, Mr. Perez shouted to Mr. Pena that it was his fault for raising his daughter that way.
Tempers were high. People were angry. The potential for an explosion was there every day, all day long.
After the 3 trials, Randy comes up to me and he said, you know, I'd really like to be there when they execute these guys. Can I do that? I said, you know what? That's a really good question. I don't know.
Back then, when it came time for the execution to happen, the defendant's family and law enforcement could be there, but the victims' families had never really pushed that point, as surprising as that is. Today, it's way more routine and expected.
I presented this issue not as a death penalty issue, but as a civil rights issue. All victims' families want is the same rights and dignity that inmates' families currently have. We testified in front of the Board of Criminal Justice. They unanimously voted 9-0 to change the policy.
O'Brien was executed in July 2006. Joe Medellin was executed in August 2008. Peter Cantu, the so-called leader of the gang, was executed in August 2010.
I thought that was pretty nice that I was able to go. It relieved me a lot to know that these individuals had died for what they did to my daughter.
A couple of years later, the U.S. Supreme Court decides that you cannot give the death penalty to 17-year-olds. So that allowed a couple of these guys to get their death penalty sentence commuted.
You appreciate, in the big scheme of things, of our 5 defendants, or 6, 2 were 17, but almost 18, and a couple of the other ones were 18, but barely. So why does a couple of months of when you're born matter that much in deciding what your ultimate punishment is? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
And it was hard knowing that they weren't going to have to pay for what they did like the other guys did.
We got 3 more that's still in there. I just hope to God they don't ever get out. I hope to God they don't.
You know, the thing about all that you went through, and I don't know if you ever realized it, but y'all changed the whole criminal justice system for the DA's office too. The whole having to meet with people and prep to testify and sit through all those arguments and picking all those jurors. I don't know how y'all did all that. They went through more than any of us would ever want to go through in our whole life, losing our babies, and then they still were strong enough to do what they did to change the system.
If I could help somebody else go through the living hell, I feel good about that. And Randy died several years ago, but I miss him so bad.
Did you stay fired up to the end?
Oh, man, he was a fighter, you know that.
You too.
I'm sorry, he was a fighter.
So the pendant that I'm wearing was Jennifer's, and her parents sent it to my older daughter, who's named after Jennifer, for her high school graduation. So 10 years ago, she wore it when she walked across the stage. So she had a piece of Jennifer with her since Jennifer was never able to walk across the stage. It meant a lot.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much.
All right, you be good. They're really good people, and they're strong. I don't know how they've survived. These killings often target women who have defied their husband or father's moral code or religious beliefs. They only used to occur in certain Middle Eastern nations. But today, honor killings happen in the United States, even in big cities like Houston, Texas.
Oh my God, why did God do this to me?
While the man behind the killings in this case wants you to think that he was driven by honor, what he's really driven by is power and control. I've never worked on an honor killing case before, but when friends of mine were appointed special prosecutors in this case, I knew a lot of pressure was on them to prove to a jury that it was really not about religion at all.
I'm a very, very dangerous man. You God knows it's from the World War II.
If his rules are not followed, you will die. It's as simple as that.
This isn't an attack on the Muslim religion.
Around midnight, my phone rings. It's the desk officer informing me we got a case. It's in the Sugar Hill Galleria area of Houston. When I pull into the driveway, I'm met by the patrol officer that was the primary unit on the call. He found this car running with the tires spinning on the pavement, and at that time he saw the victim laying across the front seat, slumped over the console. It's a woman who's deceased. She was shot in the head. We called the medical examiner's office. They took possession of the victim. We were able to then collect evidence in and out inside the car. There was part of a bullet fragment recovered on the ground. There's a cell phone in the car, and a purse in the front passenger seat. In her purse, we found her wallet with her driver's license. It revealed her name was Gallery Bagherzadeh. She was approximately 30 years of age, and she lived in the community right there in the townhomes. Being responsible for the witness interviews of this investigation, I knocked on several doors, and a man who lived the adjacent building over, he could see out of his bedroom window. He saw a silver or a light blue Camry or a Honda Accord fleeing from the scene.
But the witness doesn't get the license plate. He also had no idea what the driver looked like.
We go back and we're still going over the scene. And then we meet with Robin Bandar. We were told that he was on the phone with Guillory at the time of her murder. Now he's talking to her as she was driving home. And then he heard something. The line was still open, but there's nothing there. He's calling her name. Guillory doesn't respond. And he heard like a thud. And he was concerned that she may have been involved in a car accident. He drives to the townhome community where Guillory and her parents live, and he sees the police cars. Robin appeared to be upset, concerned, didn't know what happened. We explained to him that she's been shot. Guillory was murdered. After we concluded our scene investigation and the vehicle was removed, we walked to Guillory's parents' house to make a death notification. It was very emotional. Her mom just broke down, tears running down her face. Heartbreaking, for somebody to have to go through that.
When Robin Bandar shows up at the crime scene, he had been on the phone with her, so they have to take a good hard look at him to see if they have a motive, if they're upset, if he plays any part in all this.
Robin, he tells us that several years ago, he and Guillory had dated shortly, and now they were just good friends. He says she was driving home, probably a 45-minute drive, and they were on the phone the entire time. Guillory told him that she had been at Corey's, her boyfriend's house, and so we needed to talk to Corey because he was one of the last persons that saw Guillory alive. The next day, Corey came to the homicide division. We learned that Guillory met Corey while she was at school. The night this murder occurred, Corey said he didn't know Guillory was coming over that evening, that there was a knock at the door. When he answered the door, Guillory said, "I just wanted to surprise you." So he said they just hung out for a couple hours, and then she drove home. We polygraphed Corey Beavers. We think he's telling us the truth.
The initial impression by the police department is that these people are believable and that they're not involved in the murder of Guillory. But it's not a waste of time, because the more people you can talk to get a feel for what's going on in the victim's life, the better your investigation is going to proceed.
I remember it was early in the morning and I got a call. I was in shock. Who would have done something like this to her? You can't find anyone more likable than her. Guillory was always the life of every party. Guillory was born in Paris and grew up in Tehran, Iran. She was a force, passionate, lively, outspoken. Back in the day, there was a movement. This was right after an election in Iran, which was taken away, or at least that's how people felt. It was a one-party regime which told everybody what to do and how to live their life. So there were mass protests in Iran, and we just showed our support. In Houston, we worked together, planning events, hosting events, talked to the media. Our goal was to be the sound of the Iranian people, so people in the United States would be aware of what is happening. He was the one who would be there first and leave the last. Guillory was the forefront of every event. I think every person that was there knew her because she was very involved. People from her church, her school. It was just such an emotional moment.
After 5 more months of investigation, HPD is still searching for Guillory's killer. And then on November the 12th, 2012, a shocking 911 call is made.
911, hello? Oh, ma'am, my husband's been shot. Did he shoot himself or did somebody else shoot him? No, ma'am, somebody shot him. He's dead, but I hate my life. Why did God do this to me? God wasn't the one that did it.
The caller is a frantic young woman named Nesreen Ursan. The victim is 28-year-old Cody Beavers, who's her husband. And to their surprise, law enforcement discovers he also happens to be the twin brother of Yellow-Ray's boyfriend, Corey.
I met with Nesreen, and I'll never forget what she said to me. She knew this was going to happen.
He always threatened that he'd pull a bullet between my eyes and between my boyfriend's eyes.
When we popped the vent off, there was these GPS devices.
One of them showed the date of Cody Beavers' murder.
My husband's been shot. There's blood all over the place.
I get a call about a body that's been found inside an apartment. When I arrived at Legacy Park Apartments, crime scene unit was there. They had the area taped off, and I was briefed by patrol of what they had so far. I'm told that there's a female, Nesreen Ursan, that came home from work and found her husband shot to death inside her apartment. His name was Cody Beavers. Did not see forced entry, and I go in. The victim was laying partially face down inside the living area. There looked like there had been a fight. Body looked like it had several strikes, indicating multiple shots. There was an AK-47 rifle that was leaning against the wall where the victim was found. One of his arms was actually reaching toward that weapon. I didn't really see anything that appeared to be missing. There's expensive items there, so it rules out robbery. It appeared to be a small caliber gun from multiple shots on the victim's body, but we didn't find any shell casings. Anytime a victim is found by his spouse, you're always going to start with, the spouse. And I met with Nesreen in my vehicle, and I'll never forget what she said to me. She told me, "Sergeant Duce, I have a lot to tell you if you're willing to listen to me." And I said, "We're going to go to our office." And that's where we went. And then we sat and talked. Nesreen told me that her and her husband, Cody, had met at school, and they had been married a short time before Cody was killed. She told me that they were afraid that this was going to happen, and that she was quite sure that her father, Ali Ursan, murdered Cody Beavers.
My dad always threatened that if he ever found out that I had a boyfriend, he'd pull a bullet between my eyes and between my boyfriend's eyes.
Nesreen explained to me that her father was a very devout Muslim from Jordan. Ursan had 12 kids from 2 people. He was very controlling, wanted to control her and any of her siblings' movement, wouldn't let her date, wouldn't let her go out with other people. And she and her siblings, as well as his second wife, Shamu, had been beaten and abused regularly by Ali Ursan. But Ali let Nesreen go to school at MD Anderson, and she got Americanized. She met Galleray, and she also met Corey Beavers, who introduced her to Cody Beavers. And they fell in love.
All right. I know it's hard.
Galleray, you have to wait.
At that time, Nesreen stopped being concerned about her father. She was seeking to live her life. She was seeking to not be held captive in the ways that Ali Ursan was trying to force her to live against her will. Ali Ursan found out about Nesreen seeing Cody Beavers, and he showed up at her school. He caught her, and then she was taken home and then not allowed to leave. He kept her hostage.
He was beating me almost every single day.
Your dad?
Yes.
But Ursan would make trips out of the country. He left and went to Jordan. While he did, Nazreen ended up climbing out of a bathroom window. She ran away to live with Cody Beavers. Ali Ersan returned from Jordan, and now he's looking for her. Cody and Nazreen secretly got married and found an apartment at Legacy Park Apartments in Houston. But Nazreen knew that her father was stalking them.
He knows where I work, but he also knew where I lived.
They described seeing Ali Ersan's silver van at Legacy Park Apartments, and that it would slow down and be outside watching. And so they would take precautions to park away from their apartment. And they bought an AK-47 rifle because they were afraid of her father. Her and her husband, Cody, had a daily routine. She would get up and leave the house by 6 a.m.
He walks me to my car, and then I drive him close so that he can go up the stairs, and he's supposed to call me and tell me he's safe inside. But today he didn't call me. And I kept calling him and kept calling him.
How many times do you think you tried to call?
About 25 times. I got home at about 4 or something. And I went in, and I was like, Cody, and I looked around, and he was in the corner on the ground, and there was blood everywhere.
And then Nazreen explained to me that she believed her father was also responsible for Galleray's murder.
Nazreen tells the investigators that after she and Cody got married, her dad contacted Galleray to try and find out where she was, but she would not give them any information.
She told him that he needed to leave Nazreen alone because she was doing the right thing. And this made him furious. And he said, I will get you. 3 nights later is when she was murdered. It is a unique thing for a person to be telling you that she knows that her father is responsible for not only the death of her husband, but also her best friend, because they dishonored him in his mind. I learned that Detective Richard Bolton was the lead investigator in Galleray's murder.
Sergeant Doucet tells me, I got a guy that's been murdered. His name is Cody Beavers. His twin brother is Corey Beavers. So then, click. We know Corey Beavers. That's when we all come together, the FBI, the Houston Police Department, the Harris County Sheriff's Department, and because the Ersons live in Montgomery County, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, 12 people working this whole case.
When the information came out in the press that Cody and Galleray's murders might be connected, the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department just feel that sense of urgency because everybody wants to figure out what is the connection. It's somebody that knows them, who wants them both dead, so who is it?
We reach out to Ali Ersan, and he agrees to meet with us.
People believe that because of the relationships you have with Nazreen and not approving of her dating this guy that she's married to now, that you would cause harm to Nazreen.
I never given that impression.
We asked him if he knew Cody Beavers, and he denied that he'd ever met him.
Have you ever threatened her or her husband?
I have not talked to them at all.
Okay.
He said, no, we don't know nothing about it. We asked him where they were at the time. Well, we were probably at home. We don't know.
Regarding the woman that was killed, Galari, did you know her?
No.
You never heard of Galari?
No.
As a friend of your daughter?
I don't know who's their friends. I don't know who they talk to. I don't know anything about them.
Ali Ersan tried to come across as the caring father, just concerned about his daughter, but I've interviewed a lot of people, and his interview was deceptive.
Did you have anything to do with the death of Gallery?
I don't even know the woman. If I saw her, I wouldn't know her.
When I say the deception was there, he was showing signs. He had to step out several times to go smoke. He would repeat our questions to us.
I have nothing to do with that girl. I don't know her. I never saw her.
But ultimately, we didn't have the evidence we need to file murder charges on him.
I wish I can do anything to help you guys.
My next step is I wanted a search warrant. I wanted to learn about him, I wanted to get into Ali Ersan's world. We talked to Nazreen again, and she went through everything about her father.
Tell me what your dad's name is again.
He has multiple names, but the one he goes by is Ali Ersan.
They learned that Ali immigrated to the United States in 1979, and he married an American girl who was only 17 years old, getting her GED at the time, named Robin Dahl. Robin Dahl later gave birth to 4 daughters named Nasima, Nadia, Nazreen, and Nada. In 1994, Ersan traveled to Jordan to find a new wife, and he returned with a teenage girl named Shamu.
He told my mother that he's just marrying that girl because he wants her to be a maid because my mom is blind. And in Islam, it's legal for him to marry more than one woman at a time.
Soon after Ersan returned with his new wife, his other wife, Robin, left him. She left behind the 4 children she had had with Ali Ersan with him. And he continued on to start a second family with Shamu, and they had 8 more children. And they all lived together on a compound outside of Houston in Conroe, Texas.
What business is your dad in?
He claims to be disabled. He has a lot of money.
From?
Many different criminal activities that he does. Fraudulent claims.
Nazreen told us this unbelievable story of how her father was this serial fraudster who had defrauded airlines, doing fraudulent lost baggage claims, public assistance agencies, food stamps, Social Security, identity theft. It just went on and on and on.
Ali Ersan and his wife, Shamu, they played the system, is what Nazreen described.
So we executed the search warrant for Ali's property.
We wanted to get to where we could file charges on Ali Ersan and his wife, Shamu, for fraud, and get them in custody, get them separated to where we could talk with them and possibly even work them against each other.
We recover almost 200 credit cards, somewhere in Ali's name, and the rest of them in other family members' names.
We were able to get enough information on the fraud case to where we could file charges. Once we're able to get Ersan in custody for the financial crimes, now we're at a race against time because he's only going to be in custody for a certain amount of time on a financial crime, and we're still trying to find the evidence we need to file capital murder charges on him.
That's too good.
We tried to interview Ali Ersan, but he would start, grabbing his chest.
Sir, what kind of problems are you having?
He's faking a heart attack to keep from being interviewed. And that happened several times.
After Ali Ersan refuses to answer any more questions, investigators decide to listen through all of his jail calls.
One of the calls that we recovered is him speaking with his son, Nassim.
Nassim, listen to me, baby. I'm a very, very bad man. I don't know how many lives have to be lost. I'm a very, very dangerous man. God knows it's going to World War II.
The investigators begin to wonder if Ali Ersan's son, Nassim, is possibly involved in the murders.
Nassim, listen to me. We need you. You are the man at the house. There were few people that knew, and now they can't speak.
We thought maybe this is Nassim Ersan getting as close as you possibly can to confessing to murdering people without saying their names or saying I pulled the trigger.
We didn't have enough evidence to file capital murder charges on them. But in the evidence from the search warrant, there's an envelope that had been found in the glove box of Ali Ersan's van, and written in handwriting is the license plate of Gallaray's vehicle.
This leads the investigators to do a search for any traffic stops in the area on the night of Gallaray's murder.
Shut your door for me.
And they find a traffic stop where Ali Ersan is speeding in the area on the very night of Gallaray's murder.
That wife in the car? Yes. Okay. Here's your backseat passenger. My son.
Well, lo and behold, from the time our 911 call for Gallaray's murder to that stop was like 40-something minutes.
The time of Gallaray's murder compared to the time on that traffic stop, that would have added up to the amount of time it would have taken them to get to that point.
and they were in the same kind of car that a witness described seeing speeding away from the murder.
At that time, we had surveillance on the Ursan family, on their movement. We learned about their vehicles, learned everything that we could about them.
With FBI's resources, we have some aerial surveillance of Ali's sons hiding something that appears to be a secret compartment on top of the roof. There was a vent on Ali's house. It's like the eve of your house. Based off this surveillance, got another search warrant, went back to Ali's house, and we're up on top of the roof looking for this hidden compartment. But you could tell that the vent had been tampered with. When we popped the vent off, there was these GPS devices that had been placed up inside that eave of the house. You know, the ones that you used to sit on your dashboard when you drive around.
Those GPS units were submitted to the FBI forensic laboratory. Where that it went to was Legacy Park Apartments.
The Legacy Park Apartments is where Cody and Nazreen were living when he was murdered. Now, Ali Ursan can be directly linked to the capital murders of both Galaray and Cody. So friends of mine were appointed special prosecutors of the case.
Ali Ursan was charged with capital murder of Galaray Bagherzadeh and Cody Beavers, and his son Nassim and Shamu, Ali Ursan's second wife, who were charged with the murder of Galaray Bagherzadeh. As we were getting closer to trial, we were missing a first account, some eyewitness that could say, I saw Ali Ursan with a gun. Shmu, we felt, had all that evidence. Shmu had time away from Ali Ursan, that she'd been sitting in jail for quite a long period of time. Some part of his control over her had been broken, and she knew she had to tell the story. So we approached her attorney and asked if she wanted to cooperate. They said yes. At that point, Shmu was forthcoming.
Defense was Alan Tanner and Rudy Duarte. Very talented and very thorough, definitely formidable opponents.
We felt the defense would definitely play on the cultural religious tenet, and the fact the case was very circumstantial.
Pretty sure the fallback defense is picking apart the prosecutor's case piece by piece, witness by witness, and arguing reasonable doubt.
I want the jury to understand that Ali Ursan was responsible, because we all believe Ali Ursan's a dangerous guy. We thought that if he were to get out, he would probably retaliate against every person involved.
Four years after Ali Ursan is arrested, he goes on trial for the capital murders of Galaray and Cody. The Harris County Courthouse was still closed from damage from Hurricane Harvey, so they tried the case at the federal courthouse. Because the federal courtroom was so small, they only allowed the cameras in for the first day.
This isn't an attack on the Muslim religion. This is one man and one family's extremist views that were taken to the extreme.
In the past, I handled two cases involving religion. Defendants named Bhageshwarna and Sharma, and also Pastor James Eugene Tucker. In those cases, you try to walk the line of not belittling or demeaning anybody's religion while making the point that what this is really about is one man's control or power.
He wanted to kill all of those involved in bringing shame and dishonor in his mind to his family. We wanted the jury to understand the evidence was pretty overwhelming, like the GPS devices that Ali and Shmu had on their car really laid out an unbelievable number of trips to these locations that the only explanation for them being there is to stalk and kill these people.
She's going to tell you she was kidnapped. She's going to tell you she was handcuffed and beaten by her mother, Shamu. She's going to tell you all sorts of things, and I don't believe them. And it's up to you to decide if you believe her.
There is a lot of testimonial evidence, and so the defense strategy was to discredit those folks and to point the finger in other directions if they could.
Listen to what they have to say and weigh it out and see if you think they are telling the truth or if they are lying.
One of the most powerful and important witnesses in this case is Nazreen. Nazreen's testimony is very important to explaining the mentality of her father and growing up with that man.
You can see the fear in her as she's walking in the courtroom to take the stand.
She said that Ollie definitely ruled with an iron fist when someone disobeyed or did something he didn't approve of. The beatings were severe. And she said that where the Urson family lived, it was a compound where he controlled who came in, who left, and what happened while they were there.
It's the defense lawyer's turn to cross-examine Nazreen. Their goal is to try and poke holes in her story, to poke holes in her credibility, while making her father seem a little more sympathetic.
Alan Tanner is cross-examining Nazreen. He's doing a great job of bringing out, hey, he wasn't all bad. He did some good things. He, for instance, gave y'all pets. You remember this? And she agrees, yes, he gave us a pet. And you remember at one point he bought you a monkey, a pet monkey. Yes, I remember that. And then he killed it. I thought, well, that didn't go the way they planned.
There's only one person who can give an inside account of both of the murders of Galleray and Cody. Ali Urson's second wife, Shmoo.
Shmoo was with him each time and knew what was happening, the planning, the plotting, the thought process, the facts of the brutal murders. She did not want to testify in front of him. She was still scared of him, and she was scared actually of her own sons. I had asked her to please look at me and not look at him to try and alleviate some of the fear. She laid out when Ollie decided it was the night that Galleray was going to die. They saw Galleray leave the Beaver's address and they followed her.
When she went back there to turn around, they blocked her in. The same's the one that went up there and shot her.
Shmoo laid out the morning of Cody's death. She said they knew at that time from making various runs that Cody didn't lock the apartment when he walked Nazreen down to her car. And so she detailed they were waiting for them to leave the apartment, going upstairs and laying in wait for Cody to come back. Just her matter-of-fact demeanor and laying it all out, it was shocking. The defense's position was she was just lying and she was trying to get revenge. She got a deal, and so she was just going to say or do whatever to benefit herself. The problem with the defense's line of attack was it wasn't just Shmoo's word that we had. We have the GPS. So there was objective evidence to back up what she was saying.
The state rested their case, and then the defense called Ali Urson to the stand. You gotta believe that his lawyers advised him not to do that, but they probably knew no one's ever been able to tell Ali Urson what to do.
He presents himself as an adoring father that wanted his children to make good decisions that would go along with the Muslim faith, and that he was not happy about what Nazreen had done, but he certainly would never have harmed her.
He's trying to say that Nazreen, she's the reason he's here. She is making a lot of this up and that she's the dangerous one.
We're fearful that the jury's going to think Ali Urson is an affable older gentleman, patriarch of his family, loves his children. That is what he wants to portray to the jury. But I know Ali Urson is about power and control. Most of the times when you're cross-examining a witness, you're asking questions such as their yes or no. You're not really allowing them to expand on their answers. I knew Ollie was never going to do that, but I knew how important it was to maintain my composure and just continually ask my questions until I got an answer, not what he wanted to tell the jury, but an answer to my question. It was justice that a woman got to cross-examine Ali Urson. Ali does not think much of women. He certainly does not think that they should be allowed to question him. He did let his irritation for the way I was conducting my cross-examination be known to the jury.
He is staring daggers at Marie Prim, and he's got 2 pencils in his hand.
He looked at me angrily busted the pencils, and it scared the jury for my safety. I thought, who better to convince the jury of what kind of person you are than yourself? And you just did it. In my closing statement, in the murder of Galilea Bagherzadeh and Cody Beavers, I want the jury to know there is not a tenet of the Islam faith that told Ali Ersan to commit these acts of cruelty. The decision should not be a conviction of the Islam faith. It's a judgment on Ali Ersan.
The prosecutors had to walk a fine line since religion is so involved with all this, but really when it comes down to it, this was never about religion or God. It was about the power and control and arrogance of one man, and they did a beautiful job explaining that to the jury.
I don't think the jury was out an hour, and they found him guilty.
It was a long time coming. A testament to all of the hard work put in by the prosecutors and all the investigators that worked on this case.
I think it brought more relief to the community. They just wanted justice.
Mr. Ersan, we believed, was the most culpable of the crimes, therefore deserved the most punishment.
In the punishment phase of the trial, the jury has to consider two factors. The first is Ali Ersan going to be a future threat to society? The second consideration is, are there any mitigating factors in this man's entire life that because of that, life is more deserving than the death penalty?
We brought Ali's first wife, Robin, who was Nesreen's mother, to testify.
The state is allowed to bring in any witness from any point in Ali Ersan's life to further describe what kind of a man he is.
Robin testified about how they had met.
I was 17, and then the people I was staying with kicked me out of their house. I just first met him, and he raped me. I was kind of ashamed. And then after that, he says, "Now I have to marry you."
He essentially rapes her and turns it into a forced relationship. She had 4 children with him.
He found that my mom was looking for me, and he took me to a different county, and he didn't let me know that she was looking for me, and he threatened me with a knife.
Robin testified that he had abused her, threatened her with weapons, tried to kill her.
He scared me a lot. I tried to get away many times.
Next, in the punishment phase, we called Nesreen back on the stand. Nesreen says Cody Beavers is not the first son-in-law Ali Ersan killed. He killed his first son-in-law back in 1999.
Nesreen says she had an older sister named Nasima, and Nasima was living at home and had met a friend of Ali's, and she kind of liked him. He had approached Ali and asked for her hand in marriage, and Ersan said no. Ersan was a Sunni Muslim, and this friend was a Shiite Muslim, and there's no way he was going to let him marry his daughter. Ali Ersan went to Jordan. They eloped to Dallas. They got married. So when Ersan returned home, he called him and he says, "Come over, let's talk about it." Nesreen was 14 at the time. She was in the house. He made all the family get in the back room. So Nesreen could hear what was going on, but she couldn't see. And she said she heard a loud shot from a shotgun, and then she heard 2 smaller shots, like from a smaller caliber weapon. Ali Ersan called Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and said, "He pulled a gun on me, I had to defend myself."
The police at the time didn't do much investigation into it. There was a gun there that fit the story that Ali had given them.
Ali Ersan knows what he's doing when he's talking to law enforcement.
The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office took Ali Ersan at his word, self-defense. He was never presented to a grand jury, and Ali got cleared in that.
For the trial, we put together the crime scene evidence from that case that wasn't looked at back in 1999. The way it's described to the police, the victim's angry and Ali just shoots him and he falls where he is. But crime scene photos demonstrate that the victim had been in a different position for a long period of time. You could see the blood going down and then turning. The scene had been adjusted. This was important in terms of, again, played into the theme of you're going against my wishes, you're dishonoring me, you're dishonoring the family, you're dishonoring the religion. And Ali Ersan's not going to let that slide.
In the punishment phase of the trial, the defense has a hard battle, but they try to humanize Ali Ersan as much as they can.
What the defense has to do is try to give the jury something that they can feel is mitigating on behalf of Mr. Ersan. They want the jury to have a reason not to sentence him to death.
And they do that by flying in some relatives of his from Jordan and also by putting Ali Ersan's grown sons on the witness stand.
A couple of his sons testified about what a great guy he was, but I can see that the jury understands that's not the way that the evidence played out. Clearly, he was abusive.
What stood out in my mind was how brainwashed these boys were. That almost made me sad.
Ersan's response was calm as the judge read the sentence, death by execution. In the words of Cody Beaver's mother, her son's murder and that of Valerie Bagherzadeh were the acts of an evil coward, and the verdict a victory.
That's a strange feeling to get a verdict where they sentence a person to death. It's a pretty powerful and emotional thing for everybody. Ali's sentence was important in terms of the other defendants having the opportunity to see what was potentially coming. It led to Nassim pleading guilty. He got 40 years, and Shmoo got a deal for her testimony.
Prior to the trial, Ali Ersan's wife, Shmoo, pled to a lesser offense of felony kidnapping for that time when they held Nazreen captive at the house. She's expected to be eligible for parole in 2026. To have to walk into the courtroom and testify against that monster while he's glaring at her took some courage. And I think that everybody appreciates that she's a victim in this case also.
I was left with a lot of admiration for Nasreen Ersan and for Robin Dahl, his first wife. Those are probably the strongest women that I've ever met in my entire life. To be able to stand up to a man that you know has no problem killing somebody. They refuse to be ruled by his cruelty. And to me, that's amazing.
Cody Beavers and Valerie Bagherzadeh never would have imagined that this could happen to them. Human nature says, well, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are friends with or who you fall in love with. It's just, that's the way it is. But there are some people that cuts against their beliefs enough that it's worth killing somebody.
These prosecutors did a phenomenal job. They had a lot to deal with politically and religiously, and they handled all that. If anybody deserved the death penalty, Ali Ersan did.
Cody Beaver's mother and the family got to stand there and watch him being walked out on his way to death row. And she hugged my neck and she thanked me. And it was like fulfillment, you know, it's like a lot of work, but we got there. It was sad to see a young couple, how happy they were, how happy she was, and how her life was changed. They took her husband, her love.
This one?